Well, welcome everyone to Tier 4 for Breakout Racing League here in China, the second round of a 24 race calendar. It's gonna now, if you missed last week, I don't know where you guys have been, but we gave one heck of a spectacle. Lots of action up and down the order as expected from these Tier 4 drivers, and a great finish from start to finish. My name is Miniko, and I am here with Feta, who's currently busy at the moment, so he'll be back later on. But Shanghai, 16 corners makes up this quite challenging track with slow sections and also quick sections, such as turn 7 and turn 8 being a long left and then a quick flick to long right, and a kilometer-long back straight, where we will see the most amount of overtakes there, as it gives the best shot for an overtake using DRS. There's also plenty of opportunities going into turn 1, as there's a DRS straight there. And for tires, you got the C4, the C3, C2, in which the C4, which is what Fryzy's on now, is the soft. C3, medium compounded tire. That could be a very good race tire come race day. Or C4, in which those are the long-lasting hard compound of tire. They can last a long while into the race. And if we look at everyone who has tires, it looks like 3 people so far have gone for the mediums, such as Valkyrie, Henchman, and James B, who is actually reserving for Alpine, as both Alpines sadly could not make it, which was Ethab and Wavy. But hopefully he can get something good for Alpine as he comes out of the pits right now. Now, the first one that will be across the line here, I believe, is Carbon, if I am not mistaken. Yes, it is. So Carbon will be the first person to start a flying lap, and Haas right behind him of Zig Starburst will come up behind both of them on the soft compounded tire, so they want to set a good lap here if they want a shot of pole position. I'm not sure who is the favorite here for pole position, but if you saw last week, someone who was potentially had a shot for pole position was Valkyrie, who was just off of pole position by a 10th, as Carbon sets up purple first sector. He's the only one to set a lap time at the moment. We'll stay on board with him for the lap. But still 3 people opting for the mediums, everyone opting for the softs, in which if you get into the top 10 on the softs, that will be the tire you will start on. If you start outside the top 10, in which 6 people will be doing exactly that, as we have 16 drivers, you will be able to start on any tire, whether it is the soft, the medium, or the hard. So it'll be interesting for strategies going into this race, whether people want to play it aggressively or play the long game. Looks like a bunch of people are already out on track. We'll stay with Carbon though, as he's about to finish his final flying lap. Not the final, first flying lap, apologies. Coming around the second to last corner, keeps it nice and easy, still valid at the moment. Goes around the final corner. Does he go wide? No, he doesn't. Keeps it nice and easy on the track. And what's his lap time? It's a 1:34.8 for the Aston Martin, in which he did not have the best of times. Actually, no, he didn't show up last time, as now Zig goes fastest with a 33.9, almost a full second. Next one to cross the line, I believe, will be Fryzy, the Mercedes. Comes around the final corner. Does he keep it valid? Yes, he does. Goes straight to the line, and he sets a 36.0. That's a banker, as Avi gets disqualified. Well, that's not the start he wanted for this race, as he will no longer be able to contend for a pole position and will have to start from the back. Very unfortunate from him. Let's see who else is starting a lap, as it's Valkyrie actually, who goes P2 on the mediums with a 34.2. That's a very respectable lap time for him. Next up is Henchman, who's going to start his flying lap. KP21. He's going to go across the line. Where does he go? He goes provisional pole with a 33.1. 8 tenths between him and Zig, so that's a very good lap time from him. Next person to be crossing the line, I think, will be Fluky. Yes, it is. What's he going to set? He sets a 34.5, slots into P4. And next up is James on the medium compounded tire. He's the second person to be on the mediums to cross the line. Still valid at the moment, which is exactly what he would have wanted, as he sets possibly a banker, unless he wants to stick on those mediums. Comes across the line, and he goes 7th with a 37.9. Not entirely the best of lap times. He'll no doubt have to go again if he wants a shot at pole position, but it's only the start of the qualifying. Next person coming across is that, I believe that is a Mercedes. It's Frizy. Yep, there he goes. He's going to start his lap. He's actually not using ERS, interestingly. Does improve, though, to a 35.6, but he'll want to probably use that ERS if he wants a shot of pole position. Don't think Feta is back yet, so I'm still alone for now, but that's all right. I can try and manage this for myself. Sprightly will be the first one to cross the line, right ahead of a Williams, actually. That's a McLaren pulling into the pits, so Sprightly will start his lap, as that was actually Henchman crossing the line. 34.9 for the Williams driver on the mediums, so that's a decent lap time from him, as Kieran Wright actually goes up to P3 for the Aston Martin, a full 7/10 ahead of his Aston Martin teammate. We're going to stick on board with Sprightly here as he negotiates the first corner. Does he set a purple sector? Yes, he does, actually. Purple first sector. Let's see if he can try and keep the lap together. I believe that was Wrath starting a lap time. Yes, it was. And on board now with Sprightly going through the left and quick right, keeping it just outside off of the curb. Then it's a double left right around here. Does he negotiate it nicely? Yes, he does. Is it a purple second sector for the McLaren driver? Yes, it is. It's a double purple at the moment. Whether that holds true or not, if it does, then that's a very, very good lap time. Yellow flags out there. I believe that is Redeemer at the snail section, turns 1 and turn 2. He kept it going, so he's not retired for now. As the DRS now opens up wide for Sprightly, going down the kilometer-long back straight. It's a very great place for overtaking opportunities. Just managing to get through the hairpin, nice and easy. Easy on the throttle. And then to the final corner. Does he pinch the inside? Yes, he does. Runs it nicely wide. And what's it going to be? It's a 33.3, so 2/10 off of KP21. Still on provisional pole for now. So the McLaren will have to make up 2/10. And Feta is now here. Hello, Feta. Ooh! Yeah, just caught that. He manages to keep it out of the barriers now, as Haas of Wrath actually goes up to P3, just ahead of Zeg, who is his teammate. Yep, and right as you say that, Redeemer's actually starting a lap time now, as he's one of the 4 to not have a lap time on the board. So he's going to start his first flying lap of the session. I believe Hobwob and Ball Guy are also on the laps, and so is RJL. RJL, in which was almost, I think that was, yeah, that was RJL who almost got the win in Bahrain last season, who just missed out. It's a purple first sector for Redeemer, so hopefully that holds true, and maybe he could go for pole position. Time he has to beat, remember, 33.1. It's a bit of a tough ask, but you never know what these drivers are capable of, so maybe he could try and challenge. But yeah, considering that last week's race winner, Phantom, isn't here, who leads the championship, which is Redeemer's teammate, it's going to be a tough ask for Alfa Romeo, as he's the only one flying this the Alfa Romeo flag at the moment. Oh! Oh! Guess those tires aren't exactly working well for him. But he manages to keep it going. Ooh. Zig, unsurprisingly, going into the pits as well. But yeah, 32.5. That's quite a margin from KP21. That's going to be a very hard time to beat for all these drivers. Valkyrie, in which was last week, actually missed out on pole position it was only just under 2:10, so he'll want to have redemption, actually, as he did not have the best time in the race. But he's on pole position. He's got the track position, and if he plays his cards right, he could have redemption here in China, in which, well, anything can happen here. From what I've heard, actually, this track is decent for racing, actually. If you saw Tier 3, which was actually a couple of minutes ago, it was quite an interesting race in which El Taco Man got the win there. So, who knows what could happen, but Valkyrie is the man to beat for now. Yep, and Hobwob is one of those people who's starting a flying lap right now. He's now just going through the snail section at the moment, and now that is an Aston Martin. Gonna come across the line is that Carbon. He actually pulls into the pits, so scratch that. Yeah, his lap time was actually invalidated, so he couldn't improve even if he kept it on the track or not. Next car, I believe that is James. Nope, it's James. He is coming around the second to last corner, and he's going to start his lap time on the soft compounded tire. He's going to hopefully want to improve from 13th place on those mediums. And, well, yeah, everyone in, a few people into the pits now is actually a lot of people have pulled out of their garages and going to try go for that pole position, or at least just try and get the best that they can. Anyone could go for pole position. There's not really any favorites, so we could expect quite a crazy grid compared to last week. There are quite a few people actually crossing the line. I think that's Zig that's going to be the first one to cross. Yes, it is. And it was actually Phantom that got pole position, not Fluky. Sorry to put you down, Fluky, but you know, yeah, it was Phantom that got pole. Yeah, so he's going to want to make up for that incident, as we got a yellow flag in the first sector, probably from cars getting away. Zig actually gets a purple first sector, so that's pretty good for him. As James B., the reserve driver for Alpine, goes on to pole position with a 32.4. Oh! That's pulled an Albon. Albon crashed at that exact corner on the outside, just as Redeemer did, and he didn't set a lap time either, so that has absolutely shattered his qualifying, and he'll start from P15 or P14 if Hall doesn't get a lap time in which he's going to do so. He's still valid at the moment, as is, I believe, Zig, who I'm not sure if he has a purple second sector, but he did have a purple first. 33.9 at the moment. He has to improve it by 1.5 if he wants to go to pole position. Comes across the line. What does he set? He goes 33.5, which puts him right behind his reserve teammate, I believe, Wrath. As he actually... Oh... that Zig... That was not okay. I'm sorry. He intentionally crashes going to the first corner, and that has... Yeah, that's not what he was on. Bald Guy's actually gone up to P3, though, and Hobwob went up to P5, so some very quick lap times now all of a sudden being set as the track is now starting to rubber in. Seems like his car is stalling at the moment. He's kind of flicking between neutral and first and reverse at the moment as he's getting out of the way of cars right now. But he keeps it going still, getting ahead of all those drivers. I'm not sure if he has enough time. Sprightly retires, so he'll not be able to improve on his laps. He retired in the pits. KP21 also retires. He will not be able to improve. Valkyrie, however, Valkyrie is on an out lap. He will be able to set this lap time. Can he take a pole position away from James B? He has just under a tenth time to improve. Let's see if he can get it as he starts his final qualifying lap. There's a yellow flag. I believe that is Henchman. Yes, it is. Not sure, he doesn't have damage, so maybe he's just getting in the way of cars. As I think next one to cross the line will be Hobb. He's coming around the carbon. No, it's Hobb. Does he pull into the pits? Yes, he does, so he'll not be able to improve. And now it's actually his... Oh, sorry, there we go. Yeah. Yep. On board with Carbon, goes around the final corner, keeps it valid, goes across the line. Where does he go? He does not improve, stays P10 behind his teammate. James B retires, so he'll not be able to get a better lap time. So 32.4, pole position for him for now. Valkyrie is the one we are waiting on, as we see a Red Bull coming around the final corner. I believe that is RJL. Comes across the line, only P11. So now, we've only got one person left now, and that is Valkyrie to go for pole position, going around the long right-hander to go onto the kilometer back straight. Still valid. Let's see, can he get pole position here in Shanghai? He missed out by under 2/10 from Phantom, but still started on the front row. He's going to go through the hairpin after the long DRS straight. Goes a little bit wide, but keeps it just fine. And now he's going to go to the final corner. Does he keep it valid through here? Yes, he does. Just. Comes across the line. What does he set? A 32.1. Pole position for Valkyrie, who now starts his first race from pole position. His first pole and just his second race, I believe, for BRL. Well, the thing is with that, this is Tier 4. Anything can happen in this tier, and let's see if we can get quite an interesting race. So, Valkyrie gets pole position in the McLaren 3/10 ahead of James, who's reserving for Alpine. It's a good job from him as a reserve driver. Ball Guy gets third ahead of KP21. Then comes Hobwob, Sprightly, Wrath, who outqualifies Zig. Then the two Aston Martins on the 5th row ahead of RJL, Henchman, Fluky, Frizy, Redeemer, and Avi weren't able to set lap times, and we'll start from the back.
There you go.
Was your audio not included?
Yeah, my audio wasn't included. My bad.
Oh.
It's fine.
Well, for those that didn't hear Feta before, he's here now. Oh!
Oh, that's interesting.
Throw that out the window for strategy. We've got a rain race here today. Ho ho! Isn't that going to be interesting?
I think it would be Innis. Yeah, it is Innis condition. Seeing by the tires in the pit lane. This is interesting. I mean, I want to know more updates about this. If it's going to dry up, if it's going to get more wet. I believe this is the first ever wet rain race for BRL Season 7. So, high standards leading into this race. Let's see how everyone can do with this brand new game. You know, new physics. And this is going to be interesting. Strategy plays a big part now. Those who qualified outside the top 10 is going to start at the same strategy as those inside the top 10, so they won't get as big of an advantage. But if they do not get collected by anyone and stay clean, I think they're on for a good show.
You would hope so. As for starting tire, unsurprisingly, everyone on the inters since the rain has come, they have to start on these tires in order to get the best grip since it is raining. Raffles actually already been disqualified from formation laps, so that's not going to work well for his tires, as he's not going to be able to warm them up, unfortunately. So that has not gone well for the Haas driver as he starts P7. The Valkyrie leads the formation lap. Everyone on inters. It's going to be an interesting start. Let's see who will be able to get the best getaway out of all these drivers, and whether they can actually race well in the rain, as everything has been jumbled up. Whether you have a dry setup or a wet setup, as long as you can keep the car under control, maybe you could do something well, but anything can happen in these 28 laps of racing. So you see the drivers going on to the back straight now. I'm not sure if you're there, Feta, but we'll just wait for him for the time being. But yep, everyone just coming onto the back straight. Valkyrie leading ahead of James B, Bald Guy, then KP21, Hobwob, Sprightly, and then Wrath, who's unfortunately disqualified, but he'll still be able to make the race. And then Zig, the two Aston Martins of Kieran and Carbon, RJL, Henchman, Fluky, Frizy, Redeemer, and then Avi rounding off the grid in P16. Valkyrie's now going around the final corner, and now everyone is going to line up for this start of the race. Giving a little bit of peace before the chaos at the time being, as everyone's going into their grid slots now, and I believe, yep, Avi is gonna come to P16, last spot, as of right about now, as we get this Grand Prix underway for a wet race in Shanghai. As we now come to 5 red lights. It's lights out and away we go. Bit of a slow start for everyone, but oh, we actually already have a Haas almost nearly going to the wall, but it's Valkyrie that leads into turn 1. Clear ahead of James B, ahead of the Ferrari of, I believe that is Bald Guy, as there's actually a lot of positions changing. Wrath is now up to P4 ahead of Hobwob. Everyone so far keeping it clean into the first couple of corners. I believe that is, nearly a spin there for Carbon. Keeps it out of the barriers, but he goes down to P10. KP21 already making a move on Sprightly, already way ahead of the McLaren driver as they now negotiate to the second sector. Everyone still managing to keep it on the track for the time being. Valkyrie, James B, Bald Guy, Wrath, Hobwob, then KP21, then Sprightly, Henchman, Kieran Wright and Carbon. So both Aston Martins keeping position as KP21 makes another overtake on Hobbob, goes makes himself up into P5 for the Red Bull. That's exactly the start he wanted, but everyone's still keeping it clean for the time being as Valkyrie, actually Hardy, pulls a 1.6 second gap to James B. He's already absolutely flying. He does not want James B to get anywhere near him right now, as the grid is now getting a little bit spread out. A lot of position changes though near the back as we see, I believe that is Fluky going down to P9, Kieran down to P10, Carbon all the way back down to P13, so something's happened there as whether he gets swamped. But everyone going to the hairpin. Is anyone going to go for a move? Fluky does that. Oh, never mind. He actually backs out on Henchman, stays P9 for the time being. Was a little bit deep though. That can invite for Kieran. Does he get it on Fluky? No, he doesn't. Valkyrie leads the first lap as Kieran now is going to try and go around the outside of the final corner. It goes a little bit wide. So does Fluky. Hobwob pits. I think he actually had damage, so that's not going well for the AlphaTauri at all. And that's going to be way down the order. And that's a yellow flag. I believe that is Frizy, who actually doesn't have a front wing. But everyone keeping it cool for the most part and for the first lap of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, there was a bit of an incident there in turns 1, 2, and 3. I saw a bit of front wing, but overall, the train is still going on. Valkyrie, like you said, is pulling a really big gap to James. 1.2 seconds. All he needs to do is keep the gap for 26 laps. So it's a lot of pressure, but just head down for him and keep focused. Rain is really, really tricky, more tricky than dry, obviously. So it requires a lot of focus, and passing is really hard around here. Sorry, really hard in the rain, unless you're in a really big straight.
Yep, that's exactly the start Valkyrie would have wanted, and he at the moment does not have to worry about James B ever going for an overtake for now. 1.4 seconds, the gap between him and second place. 1.2 seconds behind though is Ball Guy in the Ferrari. Wrath, who's made up 3 positions at the start, is slotting into P4. KP21, who lost a position at the start, is P5. Sprightly keeping position as Fluky, the biggest mover out of all of them, is P6 and trying to gain onto Sprightly. But he's going to have to be aware because now Henchman is going to try and go for a move. And, oh, that's a spin. Is that Ball Guy? Yes, it is.
Yep,
what's happened to him?
Ferrari. He's going to let everyone by, not join dangerously, back up into P11.
Super unfortunate for the Ferrari as he's gone from P3 now down to P11, but manages to keep it out of the wall and just slots in and gonna try and gain back all the time that he lost, as RJ Al now trying to go for a move around the outside of Kieran. They're going wheel to wheel, but Kieran manages to keep the position ahead of the Red Bull driver as there's more positions being changed. Carbon and Zig getting the position ahead of Carbon, gets a little bit squirrely though. That's gonna invite Carbon right back around the outside. I think they're still going wheel to wheel. Stig stays ahead. Oh, Carbon's actually spun it. Is he out? Yes, he is. That is a very unfortunate, and a virtual safety car has been deployed. So now everyone's going to bunch up, but everyone now has to slow down. Everyone's going to keep their cool, but that is a huge collision for that Aston Martin, as he didn't show up last week, and now he has a DNF, and that is not what he wanted from starting P10.
That was a very confusing spin, I must say. I mean, he just lost the rear in that gank there in turn 5, I believe.
Yeah, and that's not done well for him at all. It looked like he was just trying to go for a move on the Haas driver, and it just absolutely has not paid off whatsoever. But virtual safety car, everyone just keeping it smooth for the time being, just making sure that they don't speed. If they do speed, they will get a drive-through, in which that will absolutely ruin their races, especially in these conditions, as it will be hard to catch up. But so far, we've only had one DNF as Fluky gets a drive-through penalty for speeding under safety car, and that's undoubtedly ruined his race. As is he gonna go into the pits here? Yes, he is. And that's another spin actually in the
Oh
back, and that's
my-
Ball Guy.
Oh, another spin, the same corner as well. Both Ferraris
Is
down in P9 and, sorry, soon to be P15 and DNF'd.
It has not gone well for the Italian team, as they didn't exactly have the best of weeks last week, I believe, and it's just gone from bad to worse now, as one is DNF'd, the other one undoubtedly going to be running in out of the points, as he's now P12, so he doesn't go to P14, but it's going to be a tough ask for him to catch up. But so far, everyone just a little bit spread out for now, as Henchman actually... Oh, and Zig has actually gone off.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of self-inflicted spins here. Even though it's inners, the conditions are really tricky for the drivers to manage.
Yep, but that's what you expect when you get the rain. You really have to manage your throttle and your pace if you want to get a good position, as who knows what can happen, as the rain is really the biggest challenge out of pretty much everything when it comes to F1. But Zig not exactly getting the best of the rain, but he doesn't have damage, luckily, so hopefully he can regroup, try and gain back the positions that he lost, as in which that was, I believe, P7. But yeah, there's going to be quite a few self-inflicted errors, but that is, I wouldn't say that is to be expected, but it kind of is to be expected, not because of these drivers, but just the conditions can throw anything at you for the time being. So, 4 laps done, and already 2 DNFs as Zig nearly owned it.
Zig is struggling so much. He puts the finger on the trigger, and it just doesn't want to do what he wants to do.
Just pushing a bit too much in these conditions, but he's kept it out of the barriers so far, so he's gonna have to try and learn where the track will give you traction and where it will not, as ideally you want to be on the racing line if you want the best kind of traction, which everyone seems to be doing at the moment. But if people are risky and they want to go for an overtake, they can try and go offline and try something bold, something daring. Despite there not being DRS, that doesn't mean there won't be overtakes. There's still plenty places to overtake, as when it comes to the rain, who knows? Can you get the better of the other driver? But everyone's starting to spread out a little bit for the time being. Wrath has actually closed up quite a bit onto James B for P2, as the gaps between James B and Valkyrie staying a little bit consistent, 1.5, 1.4. Wrath could try and get the best of James B if he keeps it easy, but obviously since there's no DRS, he won't be able to open the rear wing and just get that extra boost on the straights, and he'll just have to slap behind, try and get pressure to James B and try and force him into an error. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting race for 28 laps, and we've already done 5, as Valkyrie is gonna come across the line to finish the 5th lap, as he actually has the fastest lap. Actually, no, James B sets the fastest lap. Now Wrath does.
Yeah, the top three are
pulling
away from everyone so quickly, but what Wrath and James need is for the person in front of them to make a mistake, ideally in the corner before the straight, so they can capitalize on that, because right now it's just them following each other and playing the patient game. They can't really do anything other than, you know, burn their ERS and hope for the best, really.
Yeah, and when you said that the top 3 were pulling away, looking at the gaps between the leaders and the others, I believe Valkyrie already has a pit stop over possibly P11. So these 3 are almost in a world of their own, as is KP21 as well. So they have quite a lot of pace, these 3. But whether they can keep it consistent for 28 long laps, I'm about to find out. But so far, so good for these drivers.
Of course, Valkyrie, he had a 1.2 second gap a couple laps ago, but seems like that gap has been reduced. We're going to see a lot this race, really. I mean, it just depends on people's focus, if they not just need a little bit of a brain break in this straight or something, but this is tough. This is tough for all the drivers.
luckily for us, since they're all spread out right now, that also gives us a bit of a break as well. As last week we had a lot of chaos happen in this tier in Bahrain, so this rain giving us a little bit of comfort and a little bit more breathing space. As I ran out of breath quite a bit then. As Wrath sets another fast lap of the Grand Prix. These three really are in a world of their own. I believe they're the only ones in the 47s. Well, they are in the low 47s, so yeah, these three drivers showing a lot of pace as Wrath is really trying to just pressurize these guys, try and go for a move. But wouldn't you say this is a little bit like a realistic Formula One race where the top three are spread out compared to all the others?
You could say that, maybe. There's still... I'm just waiting for a side-by-side battle, to be honest. I mean, it's just a big trend between everyone right now. There's still a couple laps left. We're not even halfway into the race. That's RJL into the pit lane. Maybe he got some front wing damage. The driver not to rule out, though, is KP21. He is... Oh!
Sorry to bring it to you, but RJL's gone on the mediums.
Oh.
Could the track be drying? I'm not seeing any rain, I don't think. No, I'm not seeing any rain, so the track is starting to dry up. This is going to be interesting.
This is going to play into strategy a lot. The undercut normally is the fastest way. Is the fastest undercut. Yeah, whoa, the fastest strategy. If you want to pass someone, here we go. Wrath against James. No ERS, purely on that pace and that straight line speed of the Haas. They're going side by side. No one's pulling from each other. James in the grass a bit. Who's going to break latest? Oh, James going super wide, and that allows Wrath to keep the position and move up into P2. Is Valkyrie going to pit? No, he doesn't. He stays out, so does Wrath, so does James. I assume everyone else will do the same unless DRS is activated. The track still seems to be a bit greasy, even though there's no water pouring down, but...
Yeah, that proves it by RJL losing a lot of time on Frizy at the moment. Those mediums just not doing well in these conditions, just a little bit too greasy. But the question is, since the track is drying, as there's actually two spins already, that is Zig and RJL, but Zig losing a lot of positions. He's down to P11. He actually hits the barrier a little bit, keeps it on the track. Luckily, he's making a few mistakes here, but he still managed to keep it on the track and out of the barriers, so I mean, good for him. But the real question for how this race is going to go now is, if anything, which of the top three drivers is going to blink first? As we have another spin, actually, and it's Redeemer.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and he has front wing damage as well. Pardon? Not sure what's going on, but at least let us know what's happening for the time being. But yeah, the top three, they are really gonna have to decide who's gonna blink first. It could play dividends for them, or it won't play well. Wrath trying to get pressure onto Valkyrie again. We're going on board with the Haas driver. He is gaining a bit, but it's obviously not gonna be enough because he doesn't have that DRS. You can see the rain isn't coming down, but there's still a lot of spray coming off of Valkyrie, which is blinding Wrath at the moment. But yeah, and we have another spin, and it's Zig again. He's just not having a good time on these conditions.
Yeah, I wonder when the track will fully dry up, though. Is it a guessing game, or, you know, are people just waiting for the DRS to be activated so that can allow them to pit? It's really just a matter of what position of the track you're in when that DRS is activated. Zig has spun a few times now. He is not having the best day. He is playing with that throttle so much to try and get that best traction.
Yeah, those inters and those tires just probably way too overheated at this point in time. He's had quite a lot of spins, down to P13 now, as we have another pitter. As Zig is all the way on the grass. What is he doing? He's all the way off on the grass. He doesn't have a front wing now. I was just about to bring back. Redeemer was into the pits, and no doubt Zig will have to go into the pits as well. about to find out. He comes into his pit box. He actually had a front wing change.
Yeah.
Right.
If I don't know, if I were Zick, he has nothing to lose. Might as well go on those dries. See how the conditions are. Zick gets the 3-second.
He nearly binned it like Hamilton did in 2007. If you guys remember what happened, he just didn't. I think he sped in the pit lane.
Yep.
Yeah, there he goes. He
Here
retires.
we go,
So
Wrath
he's
on
had
Valkyrie.
enough.
He's using all of his ERS. Valkyrie's weaving left and right, but that's not going to stop Wrath. He has overspeed. He's going to try around the outside this time. Who will break the latest? Wrath goes wide. He's going to go for the switchback against Valkyrie. Both of them still going side by side. Are they going to pit or are they going to stay out for that track position? Valkyrie gets the inside line, goes a bit wide. Wrath again with the switchback. Both going side by side, but Wrath does not have the ERS to keep up with Valkyrie. Valkyrie's 71% compared to Wrath's 7%. Wrath keeps the position up to P1, but still under pressure by Wrath. He's pushing like hell to try and place his car to defend against that Haas driver.
That McLaren trying to be one of the widest McLarens in the world, trying to keep Wrath behind at the moment. The Canadian driver really trying to give pressure onto Valkyrie and that Russian Haas. As by the looks of it, he's got a lot of pace, but he's just kind of tucked behind the McLaren and just not able to do anything for now. But the thing is, the track is still drying a little bit, but there's still quite a lot of spray coming off of Valkyrie. So it's really a question is, if Wrath can try and go onto the dries, the question is when and if it'll pay off, as Valkyrie goes a little bit wide there on at that corner, and it goes a little bit wide again. Valkyrie now just getting the braking right. That's allowing Wrath to get right on the back. Yeah, that is. He's right on the back of him at the moment. But Valkyrie gaining quite a little bit on that section. But now Wrath is going to try and gain on the McLaren. He's using that ERS, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough unless he tries to send it, as we actually have a bit of a spin. I believe that is RJ. Wrath just not quite making the move just yet. He really is pressurizing Valkyrie, but Valkyrie is giving him absolutely nothing to work with. Is he going to pit? No, he is not. So, yeah. Valkyrie trying to make the widest McLaren and also trying to keep a cool head ahead of the Haas.
I mean, he has significantly more ERS than Wrath right now. All he has to do is just use it on the straights in case he does make a mistake, and he will stay in front of Wrath. Wrath did gain a lot through the second sector, so as long as he doesn't use it and plays the patient game, if his rain does not clear up, he will definitely try to go for a move, as he does right now, but it did not pay off.
Yeah, Valkyrie's mirror is just really full of that Haas. He's really wanting to make a move, but if that's actually what's actually interesting about the track drying is the big question of what tires they would go on, because I don't know if the mediums will make it. The hards definitely will. Valkyrie actually goes a little bit wide, and that's going to allow Wrath to get right into the back. But the real question is who's going to bite and what tires are they going to go on, because that can play a significant role in who will have the advantage. Valkyrie goes a little bit deep again.
Yeah, look at Wrath.
Wrath is right on the back.
Has to yield. He has to yield his throttle in order to not make contact with Valkyrie. He uses the inside line perfectly, using that ERS. But like I said before, Valkyrie has enough to pull away in order for Wrath to not make a move on the straight. He's going to try and brake as late as he can through this hairpin, but unfortunately has to yield, or else they would both crash, to be honest.
Yeah, Wrath just deciding to play a bit of a long game, as he also has to remember that James is right there. As Valkyrie goes in pits, so does Wrath. So people are thinking that now's the time. DRS is enabled now. This is the time. Is this going to pay off? And who is going to make those tires work as soon as possible? Valkyrie comes into the pits. What tires is he going? He goes on to, I believe, the hard compound of tire. Let me verify that. Yes, he does. Wrath also goes onto the hard compound, so they're both thinking that the mediums will not make it, as a bunch of people are now starting to pit.
On mediums.
KP21, though, goes on the mediums.
Let's see how the conditions are. The track still looks a bit greasy, but conditions are improving a lot. James is going to miss out big time.
Watch that. We'll watch that gap, as right now it is going down a little bit. Actually, it's going down a lot more than expected. James B has not played this off well, as Valkyrie's now really gaining on the Alpine driver, and well, you would suspect that Valkyrie will try and jump him, but maybe he's hoping that Valkyrie and Wrath will make a mistake, as actually Valkyrie has already pulled quite a big gap on Wrath, 2.4, and Wrath was right on the back of the McLaren. So whether Wrath got held up, I'm not entirely sure, but Valkyrie now has quite a bit of clear air, and now is just going to try and streak away.
Wrath made a bit of a mistake coming out of turn 3. Valkyrie did the same, but Wrath, that cost him more time. Valkyrie does have a purple sector too, so that's how you know that the slicks are the fastest tire right now. James going through the final hairpin. He is struggling so much for turn in.
Yeah, and he's no doubt going to go into the pits this lap. Yes, he does, but as to what tire he'll go on, we'll see. Comes into the pits now. Let's hope he doesn't speed. We're going to stay on with him for this. Does he speed? No, he doesn't. He actually keeps it really cautious there, as there's actually a bit of a spin now, and that's Kieran. Kieran is off, doesn't have damage, so he's able to continue, but that has not gone well for him, as he nearly has another spin, and he does! Has not gone well for the Aston Martin at all, as we have another spin as well, and it's Frizy.
Oh my.
Frizy's off as well.
That corner, it costed a lot of lives, and I can tell it realistic as well. That curve is deadly. It's quiet, but
he gets a 3-second time penalty as he pits onto whichever tire. I would believe the hard. But yeah, that corner catching a lot of people, in which if you didn't see the realistic race, Mort Mew was one of the few to get caught out by that curb. Just got onto it a little bit too much and spun off, and that effectively lost him the lead when he was absolutely dominating. So these drivers not entirely learning from that mistake, but yeah, I said James B was struggling. Indeed he has. He's already fallen to 2.8 seconds behind Wrath. But interestingly, he went onto the mediums. He's going to try and gain back all that lost time unless something happens to him or even the drivers ahead, as the track obviously is still drying at the moment. But yeah, it's really just keeping it on the track for now, as everyone's a little bit spread out for the time being. I say that actually, but Hobwob is actually on the back of Fluky. That's really the closest battle at on track for now, as Hobwob. Both of these two on the mediums. Fluky does have that 3-second. Hobwob just tucking in behind that Ferrari, which he's going to try and go and just get some points for Ferrari, despite Bald Guy's unfortunate retirement with only 2 laps. Valkyrie did set the fastest lap of this Grand Prix, so that is a clear indication, if it wasn't already, that it is definitely time for dry tires, as everyone's on the dries. As now Henchman sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. That could be tossed around a little bit, as the track is still drying. But Hobwob, he does have the DRS, but it's not going to be enough. But yeah, everyone is spread, and well, all these drivers just hoping that they won't make a mistake for now.
Yeah, the closest battle on track right now is James on Wrath, 1.2 seconds. Not even, he doesn't even have DRS yet. We'll have to wait a couple laps for that. He is on the mediums, the fresher rubber as Wrath. But the question is, will he make it to the end on these tires? I saw in realistic that they could make like 16 laps, but I think that would be the max on that specific time. I mean, doing my math, I don't think he's gonna make 16 laps on this. He's gonna do a bit more than that.
Well, it's a huge guessing game as to whether these drivers can make those tires last. There's actually quite a few people on mediums. James B does have the freshest medium, so he'll have a longer time, like a better time on those mediums for a little bit longer compared to the other drivers. But James B, on those medium compounded tire, he's gonna want to make up those 2 positions, and then probably try and pull a Fernando Alonso in Hungary and just absolutely defend like a madman. Right as I say that, James V sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. It does have DRS on the Haas of Wrathful, but it's going to be interesting as to whether those mediums can last for the rest of this Grand Prix, as he already has 1 lap on those tires, as we are on lap 15 out of 28.
Yeah, you can see Wrath's red light blinking a bit there, so that notifies James that Wrath has very little ERS to play with, to defend himself with, and that leaves him more vulnerable to him, let's say, and that does give James a bit of an advantage if he wants to chase down the lead.
Yeah, and already he's right on the back of that Haas, so he's making those mediums work. And since he does have the ERS advantage, like you said, because he knows that Wrath does not have the amount of ERS that James V does, as he has around 80%. And, well, he's right on the back, so there's no doubt, as long as he just keeps it clean through this corner, in which I believe he does so. Yes, he does. I believe there will be no doubt a switch for position for P2, as he's got the slipstream, he's using ERS, he's got the DRS, he pulls out to the right-hand side, and he passes Wrath for P2, and is now going to try and get after Valkyrie, who has been leading this Grand Prix since almost the very beginning. He's got 1.9 seconds to gain on the McLaren driver, but is it going to be enough? Those mediums are not going to last as long as the hards. Valkyrie playing the long game, while James V trying to play aggressive and then just try and defend. And the gap is already going down, 1.6 now. James V really making those mediums work. And he wants to get a podium and possibly a win for Alpine, because last week, Ethab, he got a podium for Alpine. James B will no doubt want to do that again and get Alpine the second podium in just 2 races, which would be lovely. And now the sun is starting to come out a bit, so I don't think rain is going to be a threat anymore, and these drivers are just going to stick on the tires that they're on and just try and go for and just try and go to the end.
James
Looks like
does not have
is here. Oh, nope, you are. Never mind.
Sorry. I just didn't have anything to say, but yeah, he's still closing in on James. He still needs to get into that DRS. Sorry, James is still closing in on Valkyrie, and he still needs that DRS in order to help him pass him. Other than that, it's a really quiet race after that rain.
Yeah, so I think for now, just focus on James V as he tries to gain on that McLaren. It's a bit of a quiet one compared to last week, but like I said before, it's a little bit easier for us as we aren't losing our breaths over chaos. Although 3 drivers did retire, it's been a pretty easy Grand Prix for the time being. James V already very close to the DRS of Valkyrie, but the thing is with this track though, you can get close, you can get within DRS. But if you don't have a significant pace advantage, it can be hard to overtake. But James B on those mediums, he does have the advantage. So as to whether he'll pass Valkyrie, it's unsure. But he's already like 5/10 behind the McLaren driver. No doubt he's going to have a DRS unless he has a little bit of a moment. But this is exactly what James B wanted to do. He wanted to be on those mediums. Spinner's Wrath is off.
Oh no. Let's see if he doesn't get on the track before that Red Wolf KP cap takes advantage of that position. Wrath is gonna join. He's gonna join. Yeah, he's just gonna give the position to to KP and Henchman. Going through again on the battle for P1 here. I think Valkyrie is gonna get the DRS from RJL. No, he doesn't. But he's still gonna get the slipstream. James does not have that. Yes, he does. Sorry, but he doesn't have that gap to close in on him and overtake him. He's gonna wait a few more laps. He's gonna have to wait a few more laps in order to plan an attack again.
That's another spin actually, and that is the other McLaren of Sprightly. He manages to keep it out of the barriers and he's able to continue. He's still P6 for the time being, but that is just super unfortunate for Wrath. He started quite nicely. He had a great launch on the Grand Prix, was in the podium was challenging for a win, but now his race has just been absolutely ruined by a driver error. And because of that, that promotes KP21 up into the podium places, 2 seconds ahead of Henchman. So as to whether Henchman can try and nab P3, we'll have to wait and see. But Valkyrie just trying to keep the gap as far away from James B as possible. 9 tenths, 8 tenths around between the two drivers. Wrath goes into the pits, unsurprisingly, as he's going to get a new front wing. Goes onto the medium compound of tire. I think that, well, considering all the other drivers, it'll be questionable for the others, but not so much for Wrath, as he now comes out into pits. Still in the points, however, so he can still get some points for Haas, but it could have been so much more. But there's still a chance of something else to happen, but we'll just have to wait and see in these 10 and a half laps to go for Tier 4.
Yeah, again, James does not have that DRS on Valkyrie. I don't know what's happening. I mean, I wouldn't say that the mediums are losing that grip that fast, but there must be something wrong with James. Yeah, he doesn't have the DRS now. Something strange. He's gonna have to make. He's gonna have to pressure him more if he wants to get that win and keep that win.
Just looking at the tires at the moment, they still actually look okay. So maybe he's just not quite giving the most out of those tires for now. Unless he's just trying to keep it easy because he might not know that the mediums will last. But he really, if he wants to get the win, he's really gonna want to get on the back of Valkyrie. And so far, it's just not going his way right now. Valkyrie is actually really pulling in the second sector. Maybe Valkyrie has more DRS, and James B is almost out of the DRS again. He was in the DRS, but not anymore. It's around 1 second as to whether he'll cross the DRS line within a second. We'll have to find out and see, which is right about now. No, he doesn't. So James B still doesn't have DRS, and those mediums, the more he continues within that dirty air, the more those mediums are just going to die off, and the more he's just not going to be able to pass Valkyrie, who has just been absolutely dominating this race for so long. Has been in the lead for every lap but one of this Grand Prix.
Insane from Valkyrie. James is finally going to get that DRS that he so desperately needs to close the gap between him and that McLaren. That is Sprightly. Sprightly's off again in that same section that he lost control of the car a couple laps ago as well. Down into P8. He's still in the points.
Yeah, but if he makes too many mistakes, that'll allow Wrath to come back into him. That section just not going well for the other McLaren driver. Still, he's sitting in P8, whereas his teammate is sitting in P1. So still some decent points for McLaren for the time being, but he just wishes that he could stop making these mistakes and just try and go for a better position. But it's a long gap between him and Hobwob. And, well, a bit of battles now starting to form up a little bit as KP21 is now receiving a little bit of pressure now from Henchman. Henchman's actually gained quite a bit on the Red Bull driver. No doubt he's going to go for that podium place as they got quite a gap to first. But the gap between 4th and 5th is massive between the two Williams drivers of Henchman and Avi. Henchman no doubt is going to have that DRS on the Red Bull driver. He does not want to be behind that Red Bull, seeing that Honda badge any longer. He's taking the inside line. Does that pay off for him? Not quite. Loses a bit of time. Does he have the ERS compared to KP21?
No, he doesn't.
No, actually he doesn't. But he does have the DRS. He does have the slipstream. But it just looks like for now it's just not going to be enough for him. But there's still plenty of opportunities in this Grand Prix. And the gap between first and second is now starting to close up. James B now starting to pressurize the McLaren again. but he just really needs to get past. He does have the ERS, but so does Valkyrie. So I think they're pretty level on. Actually, no, James B has quite a bit of ERS over Valkyrie, but still very high up. But now we're starting to get quite a bit of action now. As we not only do we have a battle for the lead, we also have a battle for the podium, for P5, and for P8 as Wrath is closing up onto the back of Sprightly, in which Hobwob comes into the pits.
Abby as well on P5. This is a move we haven't seen him. Oh, Fluky! Too much on the curb. He touches Abby as well. Abby tries to avoid him. He's gonna carry on, but Fluky's gonna lose that position that he so desperately wanted from the Williams car. That was just driver error, and he's gonna be hating on himself so much for going too much on that curb. Wrath and Sprightly as well are battling a bit. Hobwob went into the pit lane, get some fresh softs.
He's actually right on the back of the Aston Martin. He's no doubt gonna get past him on those fresh softs and gonna go for fastest lap. But yeah, just another error as we actually have another spinner. Is that Henchman?
No, yeah,
yes, it
Henchman.
is. That has not gone well for him. He's been trying to get past KP21, and now he's lost absolutely everything. That's no doubt gifted the podium to KP21 now, unless he makes a mistake. But yeah, Hobwob interestingly pitting, despite him being in an alright position. I think he was on the mediums before, as Hobwob actually already makes an overtake on Kieran, so that proves my point that he's going to want to get past Aston Martin. That's interesting. So, as to whether he was on the mediums or not, I think he knows that they're not going to last, as Henchman now comes into the pits with possible suspected damage. That's going to promote Avi into P5, as we have another spin. I think that's Redeemer, and he has spun in the same section that Sprightly has, and just, he spins again. It's not gone well. Still keeps it out of the barriers, but it's not gone well for the Alfa Romeo despite their win last week.
Yeah, I'm looking at the warnings right now. Valkyrie has 2, and James has none. You can see Valkyrie struggling, going on the outside curves on the exit. The gap is now 5/10. Will James make the move? He has the ERS, he has the TRS. Can he have that overspeed and overtake Valkyrie after many laps of sitting behind him? He pulls it onto the left. Does not have those brakes to make the move on the McLaren driver. He's gonna have to wait a couple more laps, play the patient game once again.
Yeah, James B just poking his nose in just a tiny bit, but unfortunately isn't able to make the move on the McLaren. But as you were going back to the warning situation that you said, James B, he wants Valkyrie now to get a warning, as he's actually right on the back of the McLaren. I think Valkyrie made a mistake there, and that's allowed James B to get even closer, as he actually had a bit of a moment on the hairpin. That's invited him right back. He's really gonna want to make this move, and those mediums, they're just not. I don't think they're not. It's gonna be difficult as to whether he can make those tires last. So he wants to make this move and absolutely defend. And we actually have a yellow flag. I'm not sure what that's for. I think that might have been Redeemer, but he manages to keep it out, as he actually now gets a 3-second, as Valkyrie gets a little squirmish there, and it almost got a warning. He can't afford to get another one, or else that's going to be curtains possibly for him. Hobwob sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He sits in P9 right now. He'll have that fastest lap, so an extra point will go to him. But there are other challengers for it. But back to James B. He's got the DRS. He's got the ERS. He is gaining. He gaining, and gaining. But it's just not going to be enough for him to get the gap. As I thought, never mind. I thought Valkyrie went a little bit deep, but it turns out that he didn't. But they will still stay put. And this is not what James B wanted, but he wants Valkyrie to get another warning. But actually, James B got a brilliant exit out of there. Could he actually go for a move into turn 1? He thinks about it, but he just slots back behind for now. But it's getting real interesting between these two. But James B really needs to make a move here.
Yeah. as you can see, Valkyrie's really struggling. I'm seeing it throughout every lap, and he's just making a lot of mistakes. But James B does not have the pace or the confidence to even pass Valkyrie. I don't know what it is. He's still playing the patient game. He's still got a couple laps left in order to try and pass him, but the tires might be thinking of something else. 10 laps, they must be on at least 30, maybe 30, 40, around that range. Every time the drivers go around this corner, I always get scared to go wide and get a penalty.
Yeah, James B can afford that, however. Valkyrie can't. Because James B, I believe, like you said, he obviously didn't have any warnings. Valkyrie does have that too.
James B does have that sweet spot of that 5/10 again. He's using the ERS and the DRS this time. He has the overspeed against Valkyrie. He's waving. Valkyrie waves so much. James had to go through the grass there. Valkyrie goes very late on the brakes, but still manages to go on the switchback and get that P1. Once again, remember, there's one more DRS zone to take care of. James still has an opportunity here. He's going to use that DRS and that ERS. He has overspeed once again. Will Valkyrie defend this? He stays on his line. James is going to peek through there, yields, and Valkyrie keeps the position up into P1.
Valkyrie really defending that, got the switchback on the hairpin, which really paid off for him. Nearly got overtaken at turn 1, which is a little bit difficult to manage, but managed to hold it off. Valkyrie still making that McLaren wide as possible. Still trying to make sure, as James B actually makes a little bit of a mistake there. That's cost him quite a bit, as he's nearly out of DRS again.
Fluky and Henchman are having a bit of a battle as well for P1 here. Henchman gets the switchback and gets the DRS. He's going to pass Fluky for 5th place. Fluky has a penalty, so that's just giving clean air for Henchman in the Williams driver.
Yeah, Henchman didn't really need to, Fluky never really needed to fight that, as Henchman is on those better tires. As now Henchman is going to try and chase after his teammate, Avi, who's in P4. Could we see a little bit of team orders there? I'm not entirely sure. Frizy gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which is not what he wanted. Pits onto the soft compound of tire, and it's probably going to go fastest lap, but he's out of the points, so I don't think he's going to get that unless he can catch up to Kieran. But back over to the lead. Valkyrie has an 8/10 buffer that is going down, though, thanks to the DRS, but still not enough. There's 3 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and James B, with those mediums, it's just not going his way at all. Redeemer sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, but he's out of the points, so that won't go to him. But James B, it's hard to say. I don't think he'll be able to make the move unless he can pressurize Valkyrie into that 3-second. That's his only hope.
Yeah, after that last lap where he made the mistake on his hairpin, he's not been able to close back up into that magic gap of 5/10 in order to overtake him on the main straight. He's already out of DRS. Look at that. Valkyrie
not those mediums now all of a sudden
car, basically. You saw that switchback that he had. He broke later and made the switchback on James. So
yeah. Yeah, but those mediums I think are starting to go off now. Now all he can hope for is for Valkyrie to get a 3-second. But Valkyrie is aware of that situation, so he's no doubt just want to keep it easy. But James B is actually already back in the DRS, which is interesting. Maybe Valkyrie, I'm not sure if Valkyrie made a mistake or James B just got the most out of tires. But Valkyrie now starting to struggle a little bit again, as James B is within that DRS, 5/6 between the two drivers. This is one of the few battles that's actually happening. James B does have the DRS, but I don't think he's going to gain enough into turn 1. No, he doesn't. Still stays P2, as we now see Avi and Henchman together. Whether Avi will just decide to let Henchman go, we'll see, as Henchman is on that better tire. As, he's slowing up a bit. There we go. Both Williams swap. Henchman does get the DRS, will help him in his fastest lap attempt. He doesn't have the ERS, but he is on those soft compounded tires, so he's going to go for it without a doubt and just try and get P4. As we see another swap, actually. Hobwob gets past Sprightly for P8. The AlphaTauri driver is Sprightly going to try and dive back on the inside. Thought about it, but just not quite making it stick for now. Henchman, interestingly, despite the DRS, he didn't get the fastest lap, which is interesting.
Yeah, back to the battle of the lead. James has that DRS finally from Valkyrie. Penultimate lap. Wow, there's a spin, but this race has gone by so quickly from that rain.
Yeah, it really has, and the end. James B still trying to give pressure. We're on the penultimate lap. We're going to be on the straight for the penultimate time. James B looking for a move. He really breaks late compared to Valkyrie. He's right on the back as Valkyrie's going to go through the final corner soon to start the final lap of this Grand Prix. He just really needs to keep it within the track limits. That's his main goal. James B, 5/10 behind Valkyrie. He still has pace to try and pass that McLaren. Does he have the ERS though? They're pretty level actually, so this could go down to the wire, so we do not want to miss out on what happens here, as these two drivers have been leading the pack for so long. They were absolutely gone. They've actually got 25 seconds to third place of KP21, but James B wanting to make a move. Fluky gets past Avi for P5, so that'll do well for him. He does have that 3 second though, so he's going to want to pull a gap, as now Avi gets overtaken again by Wrath. That gap for the lead just getting a little bit bigger, 9/10 now between the two. Is James B going to get the DRS? It's going to be really tight between them. It's 1 second. Is James B going to have the DRS? It's going to be really close. Looks like he did, but he just did not get the best of exits. I think that's exactly what Valkyrie needed.
That's exactly what Valkyrie needed, right? James is using all of his ERS, trying so desperately to see if anything comes up. But Valkyrie is going to have that advantage. He keeps the position down into the straight. All he needs is to get a clean last 2 corners. He does for the first one. Will he do it for the second one? Looks like he will. And almost, Valkyrie is going to win the Grand Prix in front of James and KP21 still running. Look at how both of these two drivers dominated. Both of them gave each other respect when battling each other, and Valkyrie came on top, his first win in BRL, and James, the reserve driver, definitely a lot of teams keeping an eye out on him. Future star in the making.
And hopefully he can try and get a seat later on. KP21 crosses the line to come home to P3 for Red Bull. I believe that's another podium for him, so well done to the Red Bull. But that is redemption for Valkyrie, who, like we said at the beginning of this race and qualifying, was on the front row, but unfortunately had a terrible time in Bahrain and unfortunately DNF'd. This is redemption, you could say, for Valkyrie as he gets the win ahead of James B. Had a lot of pressure, but it was definitely worth it. Henchman comes home to P4, ahead of Fluky, then Hobwob. Wrath comes to P7, Avi goes down to P8, Sprightly P9, and Kieran, the last one to cross the line, finishes the last points paying position. A lot of pressure for the McLaren driver, but he gets his first win in BRL in just his second race, I believe. So well done to him.
We will start interviews shortly. I want to talk to these drivers. I mean, what they felt throughout that Grand Prix, you know. The Predator versus the... I don't even know what to call it. I forgot. I don't know. The Predator versus the Prey, I guess you could say that, between James and Valkyrie, with Valkyrie coming out on top. Here are your results. Valkyrie has won the race, James in second, and KP21 in third place, a quiet third place, but all you need to do is just keep it on the track, really. A lot of people did not do that. Henchman in top 4, and the final strategy on the softs paid off, and Fluky in 5th place. That rounds up the top 5.
Yeah, and then the bottom 5, Hop Wob gets P6 for AlphaTauri, which is a solid result for him. He may have lost the position in the race, but it's still a decent result for him. Wrathful comes home to P7. He was running in the podiums for oh so long, but unfortunately just spun on the long left and lost all those positions. But despite that, he still managed to come home and get some decent points for Haas. Avi comes home in P8 for Williams. Williams get double points finish. So do McLaren with Sprightly in 9th. It's a 1st and 9th for McLaren, which would be great for them on their battle for the constructors. Kieran rounding out the top 10 for Aston Martin and missing out on the points. You got Redeemer, Frizy, RJL, and then Zig, Ball and Carbon. Unfortunately, not able to finish the race and DNF'd.
Yeah, James
And now,
does not have a microphone, so we'll just have to settle in with these two.
That's all right. And, well, like I was just about to say, now we move on to interviews with the person who finished 3rd and as well as 1st. And we will start off with KP21 in the Red Bull. So, Feta, do you want to take this one, or?
Yeah, I can. KP21, you are a 2-time podium finisher, and I believe you are now leading the Drivers' Championship because Phantom did not attend. How are you feeling today? What are your thoughts with this race and the future races coming?
This race, I thought I was shocking. Absolutely shocking. The qualifying, I could have gone much quicker. And then turn 1 in the first lap, I took side pod damage and wing damage, which didn't help for the rest of the race. But I'm lucky that inch span, or else I probably wouldn't have been here.
Well, despite you having that side pod damage and all that, you still managed to come home to a brilliant P3. It's a bit lonesome for you, but I mean, fair play to you. And, well, double podium finish here, and I believe will be leading the Drivers' Championship, like Feta said, so well done to you. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get P2 in here, James B, but we do have the man who finished first place in the race, Valkyrie. You got pole position. Oh, not a problem. Go ahead. But yeah, he was the one, Valkyrie, he was the one who dominated the race, got pole position by quite a margin, and just had the lead for the entire race all but 1 lap. So it was well done to him from the McLaren, and when he comes back, we will ask him for how he felt about that Grand Prix. It's quite an interesting one, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, just waiting patiently for our race winner as he's getting things sorted for now. It'll take a bit of time, but it's alright.
You're good.
Not a problem. So, I was just discussing before to the viewers, you got pole position, and you basically led the race from start to finish, all but 1 lap. But it was not easy, as you had quite a lot of pressure from the Alpine of James B and the Haas of Wrath. You managed to hold them off, so how do you feel about getting your first win in just your 2nd race? Yep, and just like last week, you also showed quite a lot of pace there, so this was bound to come at some point, and it has already happened now, so well done to you, and to KP21 as well, getting his 2nd podium in a row, which would be great for him. But that is it for Tier 4 and today for BRL. But be sure to tune in tomorrow at the same times of Tier 3 and Tier 4, as we actually now have Tier 2 and Tier 1 at those times. Tier 2 coming in first, 8 p.m. EST, and then Tier 1, where we have the fastest drivers trying to compete for the win at 10 p.m. EST. Hope to see you there. But from Feta and I, that's everything for Tier 4, and we hope you have a great night, or a great day, depending on your time zone.
All right, thank you guys.